Today I fucked up by starting a cult. This happened to me about 15 years ago. I was living with best friend and his family at the time. I was working full-time and going to school full-time. He was just getting his business off the ground. My friend, Kevin, is absolutely brilliant academically. He's got a master's degree in some specialized engineering and can design robots and specialized parts for multi-million-dollar machines. His wife, Alice, has a master's in accounting, fancy numbers math, and can do math that's miles above what I can even imagine. They are two of the most intelligent people I know, and yet they are pretty dumb. They've nearly fallen for rent scams. Her parents saved them. Email phishing. Her boss saved them. Charity scams. I saved them. And a few other very obvious scams. I love them to death, but they are the type of people that need a lot of support. They are also the nicest people I know. Hearts of gold, regularly giving their time and money to helping people in need, though their family and friends have helped them realize that they need to give less money when they have huge debts. Because of this, they are surrounded by a group of amazing people. They have a very strong group of support. They both come from large extended families who remained close, and they have tons of wonderful friends. They have helped me so much over the years. I would do anything to help them too. Kevin and Alice were part of a pretty large church. I attended regularly, but I largely was on the outside looking in. Life kept me too busy. Kevin and Alice had been part of that church for their whole lives. Their parents had both been going there since before they were born. It was a regular church, the people were all nice, and they ran a lot of programs that helped people leaving domestic violence, and they held regular offerings in order to help members of the community who were struggling. If the church found out that someone in the town has lost a family member, they would reach out and make sure the family had food, clothes, support, and whatever they needed. Everything was going really well. One day, I was at the church and the church announced that the pastor was leaving. That wasn't a surprise to anyone. He was old and his two sons has both moved to Europe, so his heart was overseas already. I didn't think much of it, but it started a chain reaction that made a lot of the attendees uncomfortable. I saw some political maneuvering happening in the church, and eventually the church named the new pastor, a social worker who had just finished seminary. The new pastor had been attending their whole lives and was mostly tolerated by everyone. They were a member of the New Democratic Party, which has become a very left-wing party, and began using the pulpit to spread very political messaging. The church elders sincerely believed that the new pastor was the right choice in leading the church body down a path to reconciliation with indigenous peoples, but quite honestly didn't realize they should have consulted us first. That's where the first rift started. The indigenous congregants began to push back against some of the white savior messaging, and it spiraled from there. Within about 18 months, the church was split. Some were supporting the new pastor. Other groups had clung to some right-wing bullshit, shepherding doctrine. But most people just wanted to go back to doing what the church had always done without the political distractions. Enter Roger. Roger had been attending for about a decade, and he stood out at every moment. He was tall, he was a beautiful man, he was incredibly articulate, he oozed quiet charisma. When the dude talked, people listened. He was one of the head managers at the regional industry. The guy had it all. He drove a fancy car, way too fast, dangerously fast. He had a nice house. Heck, he even married the nicest lady ever. He was well admired and well respected, but he struggled with reading people's social cues. I, and many others, wondered at points if he was a sociopath, but after getting to know him, he was probably a bit on the spectrum. Roger was one of the active voices during the split. People began to flock to him during the meetings, and he was getting more and more calls to lead various groups, ministries. He called people on their bullshit and found himself getting ostracized by the people attempting to play group politics. He took it hard but kept doing what he was doing. Kevin and Alice were the biggest supporters of Roger. Roger was really good with Kevin and eventually contracted Kevin to work for the regional industry. Kevin eventually asked Roger to mentor him, and Roger agreed. Kevin and Roger became really close. Alice became really close with Roger's wife. They saw each other multiple times per week. They always seemed to be planning their next activity or talking something work-related. I joined them on occasion, but mostly kept to my studies and work. We'd all eat together maybe 2-3 times a week. Everyone got along fine. Even today, I'm not friends with Roger, but we still message each other if we need something. At one of these meals, they were talking about the new pastor's political ramblings during the sermons. That's when I came up with the, in hindsight, worst suggestion. Honestly, Roger, Why don't you just have your own Sunday service?" I said it flippantly, I wasn't speaking to be serious. Alice loved the idea though, she got so excited. Kevin liked it. Roger wasn't opposed, it logically made sense. It was decided by the end of the meal, we were going to make a home church. We wouldn't separate from the main church, but we would let Roger lead a separate Sunday service from his living room. We got to work, well, mostly Roger did, and started to spread the word. First week, 6 people showed up. Second week, 25 did. Way to cramp that week. We started getting 15-ish people coming a week. They were mostly the young adults from the church, they craved having the stability. It grew from there. Roger started a men's group and his wife started a women's group. We did group activities, we created our own mini-activities, we did everything. I wasn't super involved and ended up taking a 3-month work term elsewhere in the world roughly 2-3 months after everything started. I got an email during that time away asking to meet with the elders of the original church, super nice guys. Most are still good friends of mine. And I agreed to meet them a week after I got back. At the meeting, they asked a lot of questions. They asked who was the spiritual leader of Kevin, I told them Roger was. They asked me who Kevin's emotional support was, I told them Roger was. They asked me who Kevin's financial support came from, I told them Roger was. I realized during that talk the mistake we had made. Kevin was completely reliant on Roger for everything. It wasn't just Kevin either, there was about a dozen other people who were in that same position. Their entire lives were dependent on one man and that one man had the ability to completely destroy them. It went well beyond that. There was no accountability. Roger had even begun moving a bunch of the young guys into his rental properties. He had one house for young women and one house for young men. Him and his wife would go there daily to guide them and help them. There were a bunch of other red flags we had missed. I knew Roger pretty well at this point. I knew he had done that to people already. Roger had a temper and had no problem bringing consequences to people who crossed them. The first guy had done poor, lazy work for Roger. The second guy had attempted to sexually harass Roger's daughter. Both relied on Roger for work and emotional support. Both found themselves out of work and ostracized from the community when they crossed Roger. The realization of how much power Roger had scared me. Roger was a good guy, he still is, but there was just too much control and influence in his hands without any accountability or checks in place. He ran a community by himself without anyone being able to stop him. I was legit scared. I realized I screwed up in helping get this group off the ground. It wasn't wrong to have the group, it was wrong not to have safeguards in place. I talked to Kevin and Alice about it that evening. Kevin was about to brush it off, but the realization of how vulnerable they were freaked Alice out to the point where she begged Kevin to expand his business beyond the industry's contracts. Kevin agreed with her, thank heavens. The business is much healthier for it now. And that started a process in which they re-established social connections beyond the group. I called Roger to set up a time to meet with him to confront him. The elders beat me to it. Roger was freaked out to realize he had accidentally started a cult. He had begun the work to legitimize the group. The elders worked with him and the group formally disconnected from the church and joined a denomination of churches to provide oversight and accountability. Roger kept the group going but did it with support. The group is still going strong today. Kevin and Alice are still part of it. Roger stepped back last year due to burnout but is still part of it too. I'm not, but I still am besties with Kevin and Alice. Kevin even was a groomsman at my wedding and Alice was a bridesmaid. We can look back at it now and laugh at the time we accidentally started a cult. Too long did not read. Me and my friends needed a support group after ours became too political, so we started a group. We came to find out later that our group was a cult. Everyone did the mature thing and backed away from the elements that were unhealthy and turned out well because of it. I was expecting massive orgies. This doesn't seem so bad. What the fuck did I just read? Man, Canadian cults are way less scary than the American ones. Damn it, Patrick, what did I tell you about starting cults? A kind of wholesome story in the end, especially compared to what I expected. It's nice to see intelligence and self-awareness prevail. It sounds like such a shame what happened to the original church group, but that's thing. People eventually move on or pass on and things will inevitably change. In some cases, isn't that kind of how we got to where we are today with religions, but on a bigger scale with some of them? Today I fucked up by dehydrating myself for years. Since living with my girlfriend through college and onward, I've always been amazed at the sheer amount of water she drinks. I thought if I were to drink that much, I might as well be drowning myself. Cut to us starting our new jobs out of college. Out of pure chance, we were both hired on at the same workplace doing the same job. We had worked together at 2 jobs prior with no issues, and with great bosses we just work well like that. I've been going through some medical troubles with my throat over the last year and have been constantly carrying water around with me wherever I go to help suppress the feelings I get. To be honest, I really didn't drink all that much water before these issues. I might drink water with Crystal Light or flavorings, but I despised plain water. It isn't realistic to just carry flavorings with me everywhere now though, so I learned to start accepting plain ol' H2O. In an office job where a group of us have our desks open to each other, it is pretty apparent when somebody gets up. You know, because I can see them stand up and walk out of our little group. I see some people that get up once, sometimes twice through the day to refill their cups. Sometimes they walk down to get coffee or a soda in addition to water. Seriously? They're drinking that much? Then I get curious. I've always heard you're supposed to drink several cups of water a day. I've heard 8. I've also heard that isn't all that accurate. I've also heard that if you just drink when you're thirsty you'll be fine. Thirsty? What is thirst? I drink water because I feel like I have to, either to wash food down or to suppress the feelings I get from unrelated throat issue. But, legitimate thirst? How is that identified? If my throat or mouth is dry, 1 sip takes care of it, right? I ask my girlfriend, "Hey, what do you feel when you're thirsty?" She gives me something of a definition of thirst, dry mouth, so on. I start thinking back. If I'm not careful and actively setting reminders, I will go a whole workday without drinking more than half a bottle of water. She's told me before that my pee smells, but I guess I've just become desensitized and it's always smelled like that even after I drink lots of water. It isn't often by any means, but I just get random headaches some days. I've always attributed them to lack of food or lack of sleep, and it is often the latter. I'm a night owl. My cousin had introduced us, to Delta 8, and recently after having taken a bit more I've started feeling sick to my stomach the following day. I think I've been dehydrating myself for years. I've always thought to drink when I'm thirsty, but I just never really recognized thirst. Only an inherent need to drink when eating. Sometimes a drink is tasty and I'll gulp it down, sure. I'll slam a Gatorade or Powerade. But I was easily drinking somewhere around 40–60 ounces of liquid a day every day for years, nowhere close to what is recommended, and only a fraction being actual straight water. Maybe if it was a particularly warm day I would drink a little more, but I digress. I get an app on my phone solely for tracking liquid intake, and the next day I start tracking it for real. I put in my body info and it recommends I shoot for 111 ounces of water a day. Sounds good. I'll just make sure I'm casually sipping throughout the day. And #X200B. Wrong. And #X200B. I felt like I was, as I said at the start, actually waterboarding myself. If I wasn't eating, sleeping, or actively working, I was downing water like an alcoholic at an open bar just to keep up with this thing. After a couple days of doing the same thing, I started seeing results. Waking up having to pee real bad in the morning, and it actually looking healthier. No more feeling sick the morning after Delta consumption, and I'm actually making a dent in the water bottles we have. I'm still uncertain about the logistics of thirst and what I'm supposed to feel when I'm thirsty. All I know is that my new career is drinking water. Too long did not read. Spent years drinking half the recommended daily intake of water. I connected some dots, and now my new full-time career is drinking water. Drinking water alone sometimes isn't enough too. Sometimes you need to supplement with electrolytes. Reading your post made me thirsty. Going to go fill up my water bottle now. I totally get it. I'm never thirsty and rarely drink water. For Lent 1 year, I drink only water. I ate food but only drank water. I didn't like water. Not only did I learn to enjoy it, but I lost 15 pounds in 40 days totally by changing my fluid intake to only water. 175 pounds. To 160 and 2 notched in the belt. I still drink it now many years later. I will say, I developed a terrible habit through elementary, middle and high school, or essentially keeping myself dehydrated so that I wouldn't need to go to the bathroom. 3 years out of high school and I still catch myself doing that often. Thankfully I eat enough watery foods, salads and whatnot, and protein shakes are a regular in my diet, so I end up getting at the very least an almost proper amount of water. I feel you. I didn't totally lose my sense of thirst long term, but I had a brain infection and was a while before the sensation came back. It's not 100%, but sometimes I'll just feel like I'm dying and I realize I forgot to drink water for like 2 days. Today I fucked up by leaving underwear in my jeans when I showered. Well, it finally happened. I embarrassed myself enough to come here to confess. This happened within the last hour. I, 33 tend to bitch about my husband leaving his underwear in his jeans when he goes to shower after work. When I do the laundry, I don't want to have to untangle his radioactive taint cloth from the jeans. He stopped and the issue died. Well, yesterday, I became the very thing I hate. I got drunk and went to shower and left my underwear in my jeans, which I proceeded to hang on a hook to wear the next day, the jeans, not the underwear. The next day, today, comes and I have to go to the store to get stuff for dinner. As I'm walking around the store, I see a customer from my job. As I walk past the aisle he turned into, I gave a wave and kept going. As I'm continuing along my way, thinking nothing of the exchange, I hear, "Hey, I thought that was you." I see him stepping toward me and he pauses, looking down. He's damn near a head taller than me, so he was already looking down. The guy says, "You have something stuck to your leg." I look down and lo and behold, red cloth sticking out of my left pant leg. I immediately think it's my husband's doing and say, "I'm a kill, I am." The guy chuckles and walks by. I roll the underwear up and drop it into the basket, but then have the thought, what if the workers see me walking out with this, not in a bag? So I fashioned it into a wristband and finished shopping. I go to checkout and the guy is at the next register, so we finish up at the same time. He clocks the tattoo on my arm and mentions being an anime fan, so we get to talking on the way out the store. Really cool guy and fun to chat with, but the entire time, all I can think is I have a bright red underwear corsage on right now. On the drive home, I was plotting the horrible things I'd do to my husband for this, but then it hit me. I'd worn these jeans the day before and those were my underwear, and here we are. Too long did not read. I left my underwear in my jeans and now the store and one of my frequent customers knows my favorite color. Just tell your husband this exact story. It will be funny and relieving, considering how harsh you were initially about this exact thing. I like the fact that the first idea to avoid bringing suspicion of your worn underwear is to wear them on your wrist. Oh, this old thing? No, I didn't steal it, it's my corsage, no mouth face. Resourceful. I love that the immediate thought was, yeah, I'll wear it on my wrist like that's a totally normal thing, like, do the jeans not have pockets? I'm sitting here thinking how gross it is that you put your used underwear in the basket, especially if it's not your personal one. On top of handling it, wearing it extra exposed, then going about your business. Right after you said how gross used underwear is. Pick them up, go to the bathroom, and wash your hands. Then continue with your day. No one else wants to touch your dirty underwear. How did you put pants on and presumably socks and shoes and not notice underwear in your pant leg? Today I fucked up by making my mom think I'm a horndog. This particular fuck-up is the result of two events, one today, and one about a month ago. I, 21F, am living at home the summer before my senior year of college. I work as a babysitter for a local family, often starting in the early afternoon. Last month I was scheduled to start around 4:30, so I was going about my day and took a shower and decided to bring my vibrator with me for some fun before I cleaned up and went to work. I did my thing, no issues, put the vibrator aside, and took my shower. As I was getting out, though, my mom yelled through the bathroom door that my brother left the gas tank of my car empty and I needed to fill it up before I left. Shit. I didn't have time for this. I had to throw my clothes on and rush out of the bathroom, totally forgetting the vibrator. In fact, I had no clue I'd left it until that night when I got home. My mom just sat next to me on the couch and said, "Don't leave your toys in the bathroom next time." OMG, I was so embarrassed. But an adult daughter accidentally revealing she owns a sex toy isn't that bad, so by today, I was pretty much totally over it. And then today, I was going to jerk off again, had my pants pulled down and everything, and my mom walked right into my room. I don't lock the door, it doesn't lock, but she didn't knock either, she never does. Now, I was under the covers, so I wasn't exposed, and I tried to play it off. But she wanted me to try on an old coat, and she wanted me to stand up so I could see how it looked. I was forced to admit to her that I did not have pants on under the covers and that she'd have to give me a sec to pull them back up. This literally just happened. I know she won't mention it, but God, I want to crawl into a hole. It wouldn't be so bad if the two weren't close in time, but I'm so embarrassed anyway. Too long did not read. Left my vibrator in the bathroom a month ago. Mom caught me masturbating today. And now she knows more than anyone wants their mom knowing. Your mom has been through it, she's human. Might surprise you, but I'm sure she does it too, we all do. Your mom was your age once, she was likely the same, in fact she is probably still the same. She honestly sounds like she doesn't care. This is way more embarrassing for you than it is for her. Wait until you find your dad having a beer with his future son-in-law. Mom was a horndog too. Till that 21y. Oh. Females jerk off.